Welcome to today's episode of I Get It. Today is a whole new week compared to last week. We're so excited about that. If you listened in last week, we just got back from an unexpected getaway and want to share with you the recipe for the perfect date night, getaway, just time to spend together and what that can look like, ways to do it on a budget. It's a tangible podcast today. So stay tuned. Take notes.
Welcome to I Get It, a podcast for the modern woman who doesn't want to live mediocre. We're balancing babies on our hips, typing out that important email, and flipping pancakes at the same time. Not to mention, keeping things steamy with our husbands right before we put our face mask on for the night. It's not easy, and you are not alone. I'm your host, Tierra Wages, and I get it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are glad you are here. I am your host, Tierra Wages, and with me today
so much anticipation for this
is a man that keeps me laughing all the time, like the kind of laugh that I'm afraid I'm going to pee in my pants.
That is 100% true. But every single time, my goal is to legitimately have you pee your pants.
Yeah.
Like that, I want that to happen so bad, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, we were in a pool this weekend, so you really don't know if I did or not because I was laughing so hard.
You know, when I was in school, like fourth grade or something like that, I remember somebody telling me that they had a certain dye in the pool that if you peed in the...
Yes!
If you peed in the pool,
it would,
then it would turn red.
Yes!
And I'm pretty sure that, the lifeguards just lied to you as a kid.
Yes.
But I was terrified that something was going to come out and then there's going to be like red dye around me. I was like, oh no.
I feel so seen right now. Yeah, that's 100%.
I see you.
Was that a thing that was real at one point? Because I lived very far from you and I also heard the same rumor.
I'm pretty sure. Now, if you're a professional lifeguard, let us know if this is real, but I'm pretty sure lifeguards just said that to kids so they didn't pee in the pool.
Yeah. Well, I had the same fear.
Fear tactic.
And this weekend, Wes made me laugh so hard in the swimming pool that the world will never know. There was no red dye around me, so we were safe. And this is Wes Wages.
Yeah.
The one and only. Thanks for being here.
Just came off my little comedy tour this weekend for Tierra.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. That was a lot of work. You think it's easy, but I prepare for weeks.
Yes, if y'all were joined us last week, you know that it was our first time coming into a podcast where we were like legitimately fighting. We were angry with each other. And after that, we got home and our incredible nanny, a woman that we just love with every breath we breathe, said, if y'all want to take two nights this next weekend, I've got the kids. I almost kissed her in that moment. We could not run away fast enough.
Yeah.
And so we pretty much just immediately looked at each other and we're like, okay, what do we want? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? What are our expectations? And we found the perfect place. We'll talk about all of this, but we achieved our expectation.
Yeah,
didn't
absolutely.
we? It was amazing.
But not doing a thing.
By not doing a thing. A funny moment from this weekend. So we stayed in an Airbnb that had it's a mid-century home. So the pool, it was attached to the house and it was covered. So there were windows that looked over the pool, and we were staying in the basement of the home. So we had our own entrance. We had the pool to ourselves. No, we didn't see anybody all weekend, but we know that there's a window that overlooked where there was a TV in there as well. Mm-hmm. So we're in the hot tub and we watch some random movie on Amazon.
King
of Staten Island. It has 4,000 reviews. We don't know how it got that many reviews. We think they paid people.
Yeah, wouldn't recommend it. Really.
Yeah, it was the most reviewed movie. And so we watched it. And there was it started out with a scene of two people having sex.
A lot of movies do that.
They were dressed. We couldn't see any of their body, but they were definitely having sex. And now all Wes can think about is that family sitting in their living room and seeing that one scene. And now we found out we have a mutual friend.
Yeah. So sorry.
And so Wes is terrified he's going to tell her Hey, they were just like watching sex movies in our hot tub. So yeah, that was just like a funny moment from the weekend that was unexpected that we laugh about now.
Yep. Hopefully we'll continue laughing about it.
I like moments that Wes feels uncomfortable because it's so rare for him. And I feel uncomfortable for the majority of my life. So anytime that he does, I usually don't at all. It's like the total opposite moments, and it cracks me up a lot. So
Yep.
We pretty much had the perfect weekend, and we want to share with you some of the tips that we've learned through the years of dating and having young kids. I mean, we have almost a 7-year-old. And so for 7 years, we've tried to figure out how to balance parenthood while still making our marriage the priority relationship. So we know the difficulty in that. We know the stress that can come with that. And we know the fear that a lot of moms experience in leaving their kids and what that looks like, but also why it is so crucial to your marriage. And so we thought this is a great opportunity to share that. And so really, like, why is getting away important? Why does this matter? And one, reconnecting. Like, that's an obvious, just time where you can actually finish a conversation. We tease that we will start the same sentence. I don't know how many times.
Over time.
And
sometimes we just sit there and just laugh because it's like, I've literally started this conversation 5 times.
Yes. And a different kid will continuously interrupt at different moments. So it's hard to even get a thought out with each other. So just that time of like reconnecting. And then also another reason is we talked last week about finding our identity as individuals, but by getting away together, you have an identity as a couple. Like Wes and I together are a team. We are one. And so together, while I am still Tierra Wages and I have my own identity, we as a couple have an identity. And our identity is usually wrapped around exploring and adventure. And, we have friends that their identity is around like baseball. Like that's what they do together. That's how they connect with each other. Sports, Disney, like we all have our things that as a couple brought us together and that can reconnect us through this shared identity. Your kids are not going to be little forever. That's something that Wes says all the time. They are eventually going to grow up. They're going to move out of the house. And that is something for you mamas out there. I know you're going to feel me. For so long, I would always say like, just get them out. Just get them out so we can be alone again. I have so much fun with him. And now I'm like eating my words because literally this weekend we were like, we could hold Olive back from school one more year and then we could have her one more year. Yep. And so the thought of that just breaks my heart. But no matter how many years we hold our children back from school, they are eventually going to move out and leave us. And in that moment, I don't want to be looking at a stranger across the room from me. And so just knowing that we need to prioritize ourselves.
Yes.
And then also getting away together helps break this cycle that we are in. We briefly talked about this on a podcast a few weeks ago, how we get stuck in this cycle of the woman is needing something from her husband. She's needing to connect with him in some way. And he can't connect with her because he is not receiving what he is needing from her. And that's usually around a love language or a physical touch or sex. But we can't give each other what we need because we are so lacking in our own area from what we need. Is that a good way to explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cycle.
Yeah. So we get stuck in these cycles that we can't get out because, again, every time we try to start a conversation, someone is interrupting us or we're exhausted at the end of the day and we just can't find that connection. And so those are just like motivations of reasons to get out of the pattern that you're in and take a few hours away from your kids to really focus on each other.
Yeah.
And there are different levels of getaways. There are different ways to do it. The most basic is still at your home, but it is intentional. And I know we've talked about this before, especially during the height of COVID, of us really having to have those intentional moments of, okay, tonight we are going to connect with each other. We're going to put our phones down. We're going to turn the TV off. we are going to look at each other and connect on whatever way you need to do that. It's super intentional. There's a lunch date. It's maybe difficult for you to find childcare at night or for you to get away at night. But if your kids are going back to school in the fall, you have these 30-minute breaks that you can connect with each other. A night, having a date night, and that's where you can trust somebody else to put your kids down for you. A day date where you get to spend a full Saturday, a full 8 to 10 hours together. An overnight date, a weekend, or like, peace out. You're on your own. We're like going to get on a cruise. Like, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
So there are different levels, and it really doesn't matter what level you're doing. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're actually doing it and that you're being intentional about it. You're setting aside that space for each other. Now, I will say that if you're doing the shorter dates, like the lunch date or the home date, if you're doing these—
What about the minivan while the kids eat Chick-fil-A and watch a movie in the car date?
If it's intentional, like if you're doing those short moments, you need to do them more often. Mm-hmm. That really is the difference. Like if Wes and I are actually getting a nighttime date once a week, we're not needing to have these like quick moments of reconnect throughout the week because we know we have that. But if we are only getting these like 30-minute slots here and there, we need to be having them every like couple of days. So that's the frequency changes depending on how you're doing this.
Yeah. The big thing, put your phone down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may feel uncomfortable, honestly, for a lot of people. Like, when we've experienced those times, just put your phone down and like talk. And if you have nothing to talk about, or if it's kind of awkward, Dr. Glenn Hill has the connection codes. You can just Google that.
Yep.
And that's just you go through some emotions and you just talk about it. And that's just a good way to start and get your feelings out.
Yeah. And our friends at Best Self also, they have these little flashcards of questions that are like fun questions. And some of them are really basic, like your favorite childhood memory, like just asking each other these very intentional questions. Because this is something I hear. I have heard other women say, what do I talk about that's not my kids anymore? And it is easy to forget that. That's not something we have struggled with only because we're in business together. So we struggle more of like not talking about work, even though that fires us up and it excites us. It also, in the same way of our kids aren't going to be little forever, we're not going to be doing this forever.
Yeah.
And so we have to find other ways to connect that aren't kids and aren't work. And so I relate to it in that way. But there are definitely conversation starters online. There are definitely ways you can ask each other questions and talk about goals and what you're looking forward to, and just having conversation that's not with your phone involved 100% and asking for that. And we understand that there are roadblocks. Some of y'all are thinking, well, you have a nanny, so you can get away. I understand that there are roadblocks for all of us. And so the 3 biggest roadblocks that we experience right now and today are childcare, budget, and pandemic, And so for childcare, we have friends that we trade off watching our kids for each other with. That way it's inexpensive. If budget is an issue, they are people that we trust wholeheartedly. And so that is one. A grandparent, we do not have grandparents here in our town. And so, but I try to ask my parents once every couple of months, hey, can the kids come and spend the night? Because my parents are people that I trust with my kids. And I think that's a huge part of the issue is finding those people that you feel confident. And for a woman, that can be very, very difficult to do. And so really researching and going through a few different babysitter options until you find that person. And if you really, really struggle, put cameras up, honestly. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. Let them know. Like, we had a camera in our living room at one point. We had a camera in our nursery at one point. And that wasn't
bedroom.
That wasn't because of trust issues with the people that were watching our kids. That was just safety issues, and we had the cameras in our home. Yep. But
honestly, it's like, it's good for them too.
Yeah, like it's totally fine. Now, I will say, do not obsessively watch it and micromanage. Like I've heard from other babysitters, like, yeah, there was a mom and she would talk over the speaker if I was like doing a sandwich the wrong way. Yes, which is, I'm sorry, that's a little too much. There are just certain areas that we have to let go. We have the cameras there for safety purposes and to make sure our children are ultimately safe. So if you need to do that so you can actually feel comfortable leaving them, then do it. Like the goal is to slowly learn how to feel comfortable with not being with your child 24 hours a day. And I understand the anxiety, and I see you is what I'm saying. I'm not telling you just walk out of your house without a precaution.
And just to speak into that, we use Nest cameras, and I love it because it actually records its entirety for like 30 days.
Yes.
And so it doesn't just record events.
Yes.
So you can just literally watch whatever you want to and scroll back.
For a babysitter, there are groups online. So in our specific town, there is a babysitter group in our Facebook. We have a university here, and I am able to post like, hey, I need a sitter for Monday night at 6:00, and I can see the responses. And then I can ask for referrals. So I'm able to talk to my own friends of, have you used this person before? How was it? How did she do? And because of that, we've found fantastic women through this group that are amazing because I'm able to talk to my friends about it as well. So look into your own town and your resources, especially if you have a university that's probably available and you just don't know it yet.
Yeah. Or you can start it.
Absolutely. The next is budget, and we have been...
Real quick, I want to talk about the last part. Let's just say that you can't find childcare whatsoever. Put the kids down and have a night where you cook together and we've done that.
Yeah.
When we didn't have childcare for a while, it was just time for us to connect. And so kids were asleep. We did a late dinner for us, so they ate chicken nuggets early. And it was a great time for us to connect.
The purpose is intentionality.
Yep.
And the next is budget. And this goes along with that as well. If you are on a tight budget right now, things do not have to be grand. Going on a picnic, cooking dinner at home after the kids are asleep. But it's all about sitting, connecting, looking at each other. We use Airbnb a lot, or we stay local. I have a friend that they're about to do a getaway. They are literally going to stay 3 minutes from their home, at a hotel that's cute, but it's super affordable. They don't have to spend money on gas. They know how much the restaurants are going to be. They are able to budget wisely, but they're still getting the break that they need in that connection.
On the contrary to that, most people have money and they just don't know how to allocate it or spend it.
Yeah.
Because more than likely, a lot of people listening to this will say, oh, I don't have money, but I do go to the beach every year and spend $5,000. So don't go out to eat, down there for a couple nights or something like that. Save a few $100s and go do something just you two.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You have money if you allocate it right.
Yeah. Shifting your money around for what your priorities are.
So make this a priority.
Yeah.
And make it happen.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And then as far as pandemic goes, this is what we were up against. We are really having to play it safe right now because we finally have work again. If you listen to an earlier episode with the pandemic, we lost all of our work and it was real tight and real scary there for a bit. Well, it's finally back and we don't need to lose it. So we needed to go somewhere that was not going to be a risk to us whatsoever. So we literally found an Airbnb. We didn't care which city it was in, and booked it based on the fact that it had a pool and it was in a town with takeout. So we could text a number and someone delivered food to our house. We didn't see people. We were able to have a completely safe vacation without risking anything. And so it can be done. So yes, those are the roadblocks. And we often just use roadblocks as excuses. Oh, I'm struggling with this, so I can't do it. Oh, I don't have the money, when you just haven't budgeted for it. Or, I'm scared of this. Like, they are excuses, and it's important. Your marriage is worth getting to the root of the excuse and fixing it so you don't get stuck in the cycle that we are constantly stuck in as husbands and wives. And so then the last thing that we really need to do, and this is the most important step, no matter what type of date you're going on, is your expectation. This right here is what will make or break your entire experience.
Absolutely.
And so
nobody teaches you this stuff.
Nobody, yes. Like, and you just don't realize, like, oh, you just did this great thing, and now next thing you know, you're mad at each other. Why are you mad at each other? Because you had an expectation that did not get met.
Yep.
And so that was the very first thing that we found out. We have 2 days. Okay, Wes, what are your expectations?
Written down, because I forget a little bit. I wanted to rest.
Yep.
So I wanted to sleep in as late as I wanted to, just not have to get up. Also, if I wanted to take a nap in the day, cool.
Yep.
I didn't do that, but no work.
Yep.
So completely no computer, didn't answer emails, didn't even look at them. And I wanted to eat good food. So obviously we brought that back to the Airbnb. So I just wanted to eat what I wanted to eat. So I'm doing a fasting thing. So I just wanted that to be a thing.
Yep. And for me, I wanted a swimming pool. I wanted to swim so bad. It's July and we're in Alabama and it is hot. And so finding a pool was a priority, and being pandemic friendly was a priority, which that was difficult to go with the pool last minute in July.
Yeah.
And I wanted to eat good. You know, I really wanted to read something, and that did not happen. Funny joke, because I was like, I really want to read. I cannot forget this. And Wes is like, Tira, we're just going to Mississippi. If you forget it, it's fine.
We're going to a civilized place.
We're going to a civilized place. Well, guess what?
No bookstores.
No bookstores.
Yeah.
Where we were going in Mississippi, in a college town. So there was that, which was really funny. But I desperately wanted a swimming pool. And so I got on Airbnb and I made my radius. Like, we were willing to drive 4 or 5 hours. So typed in pool, and there were 2 places that came up, but this one was the only one that was 100% private.
Yeah.
And this was 4 days before we were leaving. It was just super close time, or there would have been more options. And so we literally talked about, like, these are the things that are our priorities. These are the things that we want. And so whenever you're planning a date night or a day date or a weekend, talking about what do you want, and you'll notice that there was something that was not on our list, and we are about to get to that. When you're talking about what you want from it, food. What kind of food do you want to eat? Is that a priority for you? Is that something you need to budget for? Wes stated that was his priority, so we knew that's where we wanted to spend our money. We had steak. We ordered pizza. We, picked up food for this, like, amazing charcuterie board. I hate saying that.
Yeah, I was going to say charcuterie. Totally wrong on that. Charcuterie.
Charcuterie board. It was amazing.
Yeah.
However you say it, it was bomb. And so we knew we wanted to budget for the food. Rest. Is rest a priority, or is adventure a priority? Do you want to go hiking, exploring? That for us is usually one, not this time. Do you want to recharge, read, use your mind in a meaningful way? As moms and women, that's usually something that we want to rest, but we want to recharge and have, like, adult thoughts and adult conversations and adult TV. Like, that is what I mean by recharge. And then the biggest one that you need to talk about, see, it wasn't on our list, but we still talked about it. The number one thing to figure out what your expectation is for sex. Always. Because I will tell you that even if it's not an expectation, it is an expectation in some form. So used to, when we would do a getaway, or when we would have a date night, and even now when we have date nights at home, was always the expectation for sex, 100%. And it's because we weren't having we were having consistent, but we weren't having great sex regularly. Mm-hmm. So if we knew that we were going to go to California, that was Wes's number one. Like, we are going to have good sex while we are there. The kids aren't here. We're doing it. Like,
nobody's knocking on the door.
Yeah. It didn't matter what trip it was, where we were going, what we were doing. Sex was, like, the number one thing on your list. But for this trip, because we had been having great sex now, he was like, I can take it or leave it. I know we'll have it. Like that's what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was,
It wasn't a priority.
if you've been eating great food for the last month, you're like, in this weekend, you're like, you know what? It's just not a priority because I'm getting it. So you may have other priorities, but yeah, it was rest and relaxing, and food was up there.
Yeah. But that is not necessarily the case for most couples. And it is just so important to state, like, this is exactly what we want to do. If it is, what kind of sex you want to have, bring music, like plan for that portion of it. Because if that is something that is lacking right now, if that expectation is not met for whichever one of you is needing it, you will go home disappointed or sad or angry. And then that weekend would not have been a waste, but you will have a feeling of, dang, I didn't get the thing that my heart really wanted.
Yeah.
And just like for us this weekend, if we had gone and our biggest want was rest and relaxation, if we had not gotten to do that, if we were like more tired now than when we left,
if I had woken you up at like 6 a.m. the 2 mornings,
I would have been so angry.
Yep.
Yes. And so that is why it is so important to have that conversation. And if you are staying at home and you just have a date night that night, you need to talk that morning like, hey, we have a date night tonight. Okay, what is your expectation for sex? Is this a priority? Do we need to make sure? And don't stay out until 11 p.m. because that's a priority.
Yeah.
And then you get home and you're too tired. Instead, if your kids are in bed before 9, like we've been known to drive around our own block until we see that the bedroom lights are off in our kids' rooms, and then we go straight home because we know it's a priority. So we don't want to stay out so late that we're too tired.
Yeah.
And we also know that we love our nanny. So when we get home, we're going to talk to her and connect with her for a few minutes. And so we make time for those things. That way, that expectation for him, because let's be real, it's his expectation. It has not been mine up until now. That we know that I'm still able to give him what he has vocalized as his priority.
Yep.
And so whatever those expectations are, put them out. And if there is a roadblock in that,
talk about it.
Talk about it 100%.
Communicate, talk about it, just get it out there before. There's a part of you that I think early in marriage, we would have been like, I don't want to plan this all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be spontaneous, and I want to go just have fun one night and not have to plan this out. And that's great, right?
Yep.
If you don't have a lot of children or expectations and stuff like that.
Or no, everybody has expectations. If you don't have kids or like a very stressful work environment, something that, not that kids weigh you down, but y'all feel me. You know what I mean?
Amen. But it's just so good to just say, hey, here's what we're doing tonight. Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening after the movie.
Yes.
Yep.
Because even when we've planned spontaneous things, like there have been times that we'll say, okay, we're going to do something that you're going to plan that's going to be a surprise for me. It's still important that I tell him like, okay, my priority is rest.
Yeah.
My priority is this. So if my priority is rest and he is planning for us to go on a camping trip, that is not the same. So even whenever there is something spontaneous, it is important to know what the other person's needs are. Otherwise, the expectation will not get met and you will be disappointed, and it'll be a waste of time, energy, and money. And you'll just be sad when it's over. And that is the last thing that you want. The goal of all of this is to connect with each other and see each other.
Yep.
And putting it on the calendar, no matter what level of the date that it is, lunch date, home date, putting it on the calendar so you actually make it happen. We plan every other part of our life. I don't just show up at the dentist office one day and say, oh, I'm here, clean my teeth. We don't just show up to business meetings and say, oh, why is the presentation not ready? I'm available. We plan every single thing that we do. So why are we not planning this and making it a priority in our life?
Yep.
Because our marriage, if we want to be healthy parents, if we want to be healthy individuals, we have to make our marriage just as much a priority as we do anything else.
Yep.
And just to be like completely transparent, because that's what we do. So many of y'all are going to relate to this. This is the first just us getaway that we've had that wasn't work related in a hot minute, in a bit. And I was PMSing. And let's be honest, how many times is that the luck that we have? Like so many of y'all relate to that. And
couple 30 years later finds out when to plan their weekends,
yeah,
that's going to be the time.
Yes. And so for us this weekend, we didn't choose the dates. This was a surprise. This was spontaneous on our part. But if you are going to plan, hey, let's do a getaway next month. Like, that's a great idea. Let's schedule that. Look at your calendar. That's why we put things on the calendar, so you can know what your body needs. You can form your expectations around that. All of these things will fall into place. Okay, I'm peeing messing. I'm going to be more tired. I may have a headache. I may be more irritable. So let's not plan to go camping in the woods on that weekend. Choose things wisely based on your body and what your needs are, because that also will play heavily into your expectations. And I say that to say that, like, there are times that things even still won't go as planned. You set those expectations and then something happens. I wasn't expecting for this to happen right now, but we refocus, we reconnect, and we say, okay, this is where we're at. How do we move forward together? So,
boom.
Thank y'all so much for being here. I, this week, am going to leave you with a challenge, which I never do. I'm going to say, plan something in the next 7 days. Today is Tuesday. Whichever day you listen to this, plan 2 hours at a minimum to put your phone down and have an actual connecting conversation with your husband or your wife about something that excites you, about something that you are looking forward to. Connect in a positive way, flirt with each other, and if you have the ability, go out together. Get out of your home and connect and just love on each other.
Yep.
Yeah. So do that this week. I really, really would love to see you do that.
Yep.
And message me. Tell me what you do. Inspire me. Tell me something that I need to be doing. You can find me at Tira Wages on Instagram. I would love to connect with you. And please share this podcast with a friend. I would love to get to know them as well.
If you know a couple that needs this, go ahead and tell them. I think it'd be really funny for you to send this to somebody. Say, hey, you guys need this. It might offend them, but share it if you need to.
Find your favorite episode and send it to your friends. I would appreciate that. And I want to say an extra thank you today to Nicole McKissick. Nicole is actually somebody, she used her name, and I know her personally, and she is somebody.
She needs to change her name to Nicole 4562 photo.
I love her so much, her and her husband, Alex, and she says voice, but she speaks so much truth and authenticity. Just finished the latest episode and it brought tears to my eyes because I felt like she was talking directly to me. Can't recommend this podcast enough. Thank you so much, Nicole. If you really love the outdoors and hiking and beautiful images, Nicole and Alex are incredible photographers in the Pacific Northwest under the McKissicks. I recommend you following them. I'm obsessed. Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you all for being here.
And also, if you haven't heard of Airbnb, it's a really cool, it surprises me sometimes people haven't heard about it. Airbnb is where you can rent people's apartments or houses. And if it's awkward and you want to rent the whole place, you can do that so you don't come in contact with them.
We only ever rent the entire place.
Yeah, we always do. So you have the entire apartment to yourself and you won't see anybody if you don't want to. But it's been a game changer. And I think it's especially great during this time for COVID. Just to be able to go somewhere, not in a hotel where there's a ton of people or a pool where there's a ton of people. I have a code and we'll put it down in the show notes that you can get $35 off.
Boom.
Your
first stay somewhere.
Yeah, you have to sign up with a new account, but it's $35 off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We actually paid for our trip this weekend with code money.
Yeah.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah.
It helped you too.
We know that life is a little crazy, and there are days that you feel a little crazy, especially when you're needing a break from your kids because you know that you're about to have to homeschool unexpectedly, go ahead and get ahead of that, y'all. You are not alone. I get it. Be happy and love each other. Peace.
Peace.